Hey, what's up, guys and gals? Welcome to the very first episode of the Pursuit Chronicles. This is where I'm going to share some of my hunting stories and maybe down the road, some of yours too. No fancy editing, just me telling you about my time in the woods. Eventually, I hope to turn this into a live stream, but for now, I'll do my best to keep you entertained with the stories and some pictures on the screen. So I want to kick things off with one that still has me wondering what I could have done different. It's a story of a buck that I typically, whenever I'm going after a deer or a specific deer during the season, I usually give them names. This one, I called him Ol Bruiser. So this is the story of Ol Bruiser. This happened a few years back, hunting around her property before the season started. I'd been seeing this massive buck, a big, wide 10-pointer. Huge to me, but anyway, I had him pretty well figured out and thought as soon as bow season opened, I'd get a shot. Sure enough, it was opening weekend, and I'd been in my tree stand for maybe an hour when I saw him strutting down the hill. Now keep in mind, I was using a compound bow, not a crossbow, and I knew that he would probably come down this one specific trail. And if he stayed on it, then I would get a good shot. But if he decided to come down the other trail, then he would skirt just outside my comfortable range. So as he's strutting down the hill, I notice he's on the trail that would just skirt outside of my range. So I got to looking for other options to take a shot at this deer. So while I was scanning for other options on the trail that he was on, I spotted a decent opening between the limbs and leaves about 25 yards away from my stand. And I figured if I could get him to stop there, I'd have a perfect shot. There were still enough leaves on the trees that I could move around and kind of get in position and everything without spooking him. So I shifted my position to get ready to draw. Right before he stepped into the opening, I drew back, waited till his neck was in the gap, and then I bleated at him with my mouth. And just like I had anticipated, he took one more step and he was perfectly broadside, head up behind some leaves, had his vitals lined up right in the hole that I'd picked out. Now, I don't remember feeling any shakes or jitters or buck fever, but honestly, I was probably shaking and just didn't notice. The whole thing happened in about 20 seconds. I even remember thinking, oh yeah, he's mine. The pin slipped just behind his front shoulder, and I hit the release. And I swear it was like slow motion beauty watching that arrow fly straight for him. He didn't even twitch. He had no idea what was coming for him. And then, bam! The arrow hit this tiny twig. I'm talking like pencil thin. And shot off way up into the trees. Like straight over his back. Of course, it had to be the only twig in that gap. And of course, my arrow found it. Naturally, the buck spooked. He took off trotting. I thought, well, that was it. But then he took a split in the trail and started slowing down. I knew if he stayed on that path, he'd come out about 20 yards from me and I'd get another shot. So I grabbed another arrow, got myself ready again. When he was about 5 yards from clearing the shrub line, I drew back and I waited. He came out, 3/4 of his neck visible. And then he stopped. He just stood there. But I waited and waited. And then, out of nowhere, he turned his body directly away from me, completely blocking any shot, and walked off into the woods. I was bummed out after that one. Sat there for a minute, breathing heavy, letting the buck fever jitters kind of calm down, just staring off up into the woods where he went. I mean, I'm sure anybody that's hunted any length of time can relate to that. But I was sitting there thinking, it's like, man, it's like I had him dead to rights, not once, but twice. And then now, he's just gone. So yeah, that one kind of hurt a little bit. But that wasn't the last time I saw Ol Bruiser. About 2 weeks later, I was back in the same stand one morning. Hadn't seen him since that last time I took a shot at him. And honestly, I thought somebody else might have already tagged him by now. Suddenly, I hear deer trotting behind me, like trotting fast. So I didn't have time to turn around and see what it actually was. So I went ahead and clipped my release to my bowstring. A little buck came right up beside my stand, turned his butt toward me and trotted off, and then turned broadsided and walked off into the brush line about 20 yards away. Ironically, there were 2 more little bucks behind him. And remember, this is still bow season, pretty early in the season, still leaves on the trees. And so I see these little bucks, and of course I'm not interested in taking a shot at them. But then I still hear another deer coming up behind me, and I look down, but there was Ol Bruiser. He walked right up beside my stand, and he was right there, literally 1 yard away from the tree that I was in. I thought, all right, I plan to wait until he turned broadside and follow those other little bucks behind the brush line. I'd bleed at him again and take my shot. So as I was watching him, he turned his butt toward me. I started lifting my bow, ready to draw back. But then he stopped. And as he stopped, I was just sitting there looking at him. I mean, this beautiful, perfectly symmetrical 10-pointer standing 5 yards away from the tree that I was in. I was thinking, okay, I can put one of these arrows just to the right of his spine. Maybe drive it through a lung or his heart. Either way, it should take out enough vitals to bring him down. However, I did not have my bow all the way up yet into a draw position. So as I'm sitting here contemplating that shot, he lifts his head, turns it literally 180 degrees, and looks straight up at me. Me and him stared at each other for a few seconds. He knew I didn't belong up in that tree. But he didn't spook. He just stared at me. I was halfway up to draw, arm bent, hand around mid-rib cage, and my arm started to get tired. And then it started to tremble. And I've said it before to many a people, you rarely win a staring contest with a deer. This was one of those times I knew I was going to lose. As I held that position more and more, my arm started to shake more and more. And Ol Bruiser knew that wasn't natural and wasn't supposed to be up in that tree. So he flicked his tail, and in about 3 bounds, he was out of sight. That was the last time I saw Ol Bruiser. A couple of weeks later, a neighbor told me someone down the road had tagged a nice 10-pointer. We don't get many bucks that size around here, so I'm pretty sure Ol Bruiser found his way into somebody else's freezer other than mine. But you know what? Every time a big one gets away like that, it makes me just fired up for the rest of the season and the following season after that, and just makes me want to track down another big one. Anyway, that's the story of Ol Bruiser. I've had plenty of hunts where the animals don't show, or I missed a shot, or made the shot, or any, one way or the other. I was like, this one kind of stands out because I had three separate attempts that everything seemed that like it lined up perfect, and then everything went sideways. Like I said, it was one of the biggest deer that I had ever had in front of me in my life. But hey, if you've hunted for a little while, I know everybody's got that story of the big one that slipped away, and that mix of frustration and respect for the animal, because in a sense they kind of outsmarted you. But remember, if you're new to hunting, every hunt is a story, even the ones that you miss. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. And if you've got a wild, funny, crazy hunting tale, drop it in the comments below. Seriously, I want to hear it, and maybe we can reach out and collab with some of this stuff, and we can tell that story on the channel. If you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. And remember, out here, every day is a story waiting to be told. Big or small, success or miss, it's all part of the pursuit. Stay tuned, keep your boots muddy and your aim steady, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks.